Hello everyone, it's Amanda here from Italy, and I didn't do a live last Sunday. I was in France, and tomorrow evening I'm going to be occupied, so I thought I would do it tonight. I just need to adjust something on the light situation here. Give me a second. Okay, so we need the battery power on the laptop so that I don't run out of power as I'm chatting to you. Okay, so it's been a couple of Sundays since I did a live. As usual, I've got this extremely bright light on me, but there's nothing I can do about that. We have to have it or you can't see me. And welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Amanda, and I usually do a live every Sunday, and this one is no exception. And it's happening because it's Saturday today, but tomorrow I will be occupied with something else. So I will do it this evening. So I hope you can see me and that this light isn't too blinding. It's supposed to be on me, but anyway, I just made a cup of tea because I've had a busy day, and I thought it would be lovely to enjoy a cup of tea while I'm chatting to you. If I can just get this light to behave itself, maybe that's better, then it won't bother you, and it'll just be on me. Okay, so cup of tea. So get something to drink, settle down, relax. I hope you're comfortable because we're going to be chatting about a lot of things tonight. I just made a lovely cup of Earl Grey tea, just how I like it, in my special new cup. Okay, so as you probably saw from the title, which I just put up, tonight we're going to talk about living in France versus living in Italy. Most of you know, and if you're new here, you wouldn't know, but I live in Italy and have lived here for a long time and do posts and help people who relocate to Italy to talk about what life is like here, how life is, etc., etc. So tonight we're going to make a comparison. I just spent a week in France and chatted to quite a few people who are resident there, and I want to make that comparison. But before we get there, just some housekeeping. Why don't you go immediately and like the video up there? You can like it as soon as you come in, and it helps me enormously. It's the best thing that you can do for the channel. And if you want to put your name down in the chat there, just tell me where you're from. We get people joining us from the States, from Australia, from New Zealand, from England, from Ireland, from Scotland. So as you come in, just put your name down in the chat. Just your first name is fine, and where you're from, and it helps me to know who's joining us, and it's great fun. If you're watching this back later because you weren't available during the live, that's great. You can watch it back. Leave me a comment. I really want to know what you think. Tonight I'm going to show you a couple of things I got in France, and we're just going to have a good old chat about the comparison between Italy and France. Okay, in the background are my ice cream color hydrangeas. Aren't they the prettiest? I love this time of year. This light is probably washing them out, but this is a lovely purpley sort of blueberry flavor color. And then there's the lovely pistachio. Isn't that beautiful? Pistachio, look. Unfortunately, this light washes out the green. Let me just get rid of that light for a second. That's better. And you can see how green it is. Gorgeous colors. And then there's the pinky, all my favorite shades, pinky blue and the lovely green, all the shades I adore in hydrangeas. And then up above me is the very green ones over here. I wonder if I could bring them down and you can get to see the color. I love this season, and every year, if you watch me normally, you know that this is my favorite time of the year, when all the hydrangeas are at their best. The light, as I say, is making them less green than they are, but aren't they pretty? Yeah, I love them. Hydrangeas are my favorite thing. And so the house is usually full of them at this time of the year. I have them everywhere. Okay, so let's get to it. Hope you've got something to drink. This cup of tea is super welcome. Today I did my usual routine. When I finished in the garden and picked the hydrangeas that you see all around me, I went for a swim down at the beach. I do that most days. So there's a nice walk going. I try to do it after lunch because I eat every meal like it's going to be my last. So I need to exercise. And so for the last few months, I've been walking as soon as I finish my main meal, which is usually at lunch. And I walk down. I'm incredibly lucky. I live beautiful Lago Maggiore, and there's a wonderful beach. There's a couple of beaches. My usual one, the water at the moment is quite low because we haven't had rain for a while, so the beach has gone back a bit. So I go to the other beach, which is closer to me, and it's stunning. And so I swim for about 40 minutes, get a little bit of sunshine, because I know that lots of us are always told that we should stay out of the sun. The sun is quite dramatic in, on our skin and causing cancer and all that sort of stuff. But I've discovered that, in fact, the sun does you an enormous amount of good. And recently saw something that I thought was really fascinating that I didn't know, that the sun can give a protective element in terms of heart disease. So, I didn't know that. And apparently in winter, especially in countries where there isn't a lot of sun, the rate of heart issues and heart disease and heart attacks that result in a hospital visit goes up exponentially. I didn't know that either. Anyway, so I get my dose of sun, my vitamin D, and then I carry on doing my work here at the office. I'm building 2 new websites at the moment, so it's pretty busy. One for my relocate coaching business and another new one for the books that I publish. So if you're new to the blog, you won't know about it, but if you're regular, watch the space. I'll be announcing the release of the book and linking to it so you can go and get it if you wish to have it. One on Italy and a new updated one on all the information you need if you're relocating. So I probably mentioned this a few times in other videos that I've done. I'll link them upstairs, or you can just go and have a look. That Italy is so high on everyone's list of places where they'd love to live, places where they want to be, places where they want to have dual citizenship. And I have covered dual citizenship. It's another video that I'll link up there. But it's hugely in demand, and every time I'm on Facebook or in any group, there are just scores of people saying, "Oh, how do I get an Italian passport? How do I get dual citizenship?" And somebody usually comes along and explains the reality, which is that, via your nearest ancestor, usually either your father, one of your grandparents, and generally they shouldn't have relinquished their Italian citizenship by naturalizing as an American or Australian or whatever before you were born. So anyway, this post is not about dual citizenship, but this is the background of my life. This is what, inquiries that I get every single day of my life. So anyway, there's just a whole screed of people who join, and then they start squabbling amongst each other about what you need, what you don't need, what you should have, what you couldn't have, whether the line has been cut or not. And all of this stuff is constantly going on Facebook. And there are at least 50 or 60 posts every day of people who just say, I just want to come to Italy. I heard my friend relocated there. I want to be there. I want to go there. I want to do that. And they don't ask the pertinent questions. Sometimes somebody pops up and sort of, tells them the facts of life, which is that you can't just come to Italy. And then they always ask, well, if I buy a house, that'll give me the right to live in Italy. No, it won't. And so somebody has to point out to them that buying a house in Italy doesn't automatically give you rights to live here. That may come as a surprise to you, but that's the fact. And yes, and so there are various visas that people who can't get dual citizenship, that don't have any Italian ancestors, can apply for. One of them is the retirement visa, or the elective visa, as it's called. I've done a post on that. You can go and look at it. I'll link it in the description box, or I'll put it up there. So the elective visa has its requirements. You need passive income. You need a certain amount of money every month. And you can't work. You can't work online. You can't work in any way. You either have to have investments that give a passive income monthly, and it needs to be provable in your bank account for a year or 6 months before you come to apply. It is applied for in your country of residence. So if you're American, you'd apply there. If you're Australian, you'd apply there. If you're from UK, because Brexit happened, so you no longer can come and live in Europe without a visa if you want to live here permanently. Otherwise, you're just like everybody else. You can spend 3 months of 180 days in the Schengen area. And then you have to reset the clock and either go back to where you came from or go somewhere else. So you can't live permanently in Europe anymore because of Brexit. But for Americans and Australians, various other people, you already knew this because that was the deal. You could come for 3 months, and Australians generally do come for 3 months because it's a long way away. And so they travel around Europe and enjoy it. And that's what this post is about tonight. We're going to compare France and Italy. So quite often when I'm assisting somebody or answering their questions or assisting them to get dual citizenship, because I'm a relocation coach, the question comes up about taxability, which country may be more advantageous than another. I'm not going to get into all the tax issues tonight because this is on an individual basis and it just isn't that interesting. But what I will say is that certain things come to light. The system in France on a retirement visa, which is called something else, the inactive visa, they call it there, and the one in Italy are pretty similar. There's a slight difference, but you need about 38 to 40,000 in Social Security annually. That's your annual figure. You need to have that in Social Security or coming in passively from your income or rental properties that you own. So you can't be working that money. That money has to be available and it needs to be provable to the authorities. So in both cases, whether you're applying in Italy or in France, you would have to provide this information to your consulate when you apply. And you always apply as a resident. You can't come on holiday to Italy or to France and then while you're here decide you want to stay and that you want to apply. You can't do that. So it's always to your consulate that you would apply. There are other requirements. I won't go into all of them. You need a full year's medical. You need a full year's rent, or to own your own home if you do that, if you own a home. And then you have to get all the ducks in a row. You need a clean criminal record, and then you're granted a year. You're granted a year's visa to look, see, and to see if it's for you, and you adjust. And after that year, you would then renew it for another year, and then after that, after 5 years, you can be a permanent resident, and after 10 years of permanent residence here in Italy without a break, you could theoretically, and the same for France, you could apply to become a citizen, but you need a full 10 years and you cannot work. So the question always comes up, well, can't I just come and, do my stuff online and whatever? No, you can't. There is a digital nomad visa that's just been released. This post is not about that, but I have also spoken about that, and I will hook that up there or down in the description box. Welcome if you've just joined us. Won't you put your name in the chat and where you're joining us from? You can just put your first name. There's no need to reveal who you exactly are. And I'd love to know which country you're joining us from. So down in the chat there, just tell us where you're from. And please don't forget to like the video. You can go right now. I can see the like button waving there. Just hit the like button right now, and that helps the channel a lot. Okay, so for those of you who aren't new here, you know that I've spoken about this issue before, but what I haven't done before is compare Italy and France. Now, I just mentioned that both the retirement or elective visas, whichever name you want to give it, in France, it's the inactive because you can't work, just like Italy. They're pretty similar. I mean, most European countries have the same rules, same regulations, same laws. And yeah, what I noticed as a difference is the cost of living in France, the way French life takes place is slightly different from Italy, although the procedure that you would go to get residence if you're coming in on a visa is pretty similar. In France, you'd go to the mairie, and here in Italy, you go to the comune, but more or less it's the same. You need a year's health insurance until you can become part of the system. In Italy, ASL would cover that, ASL, and in France, they have their system there. But you don't immediately. Another question that's always asked me is, do I have immediate free healthcare? So if you're coming from the States, you're probably sick to death of, worrying about whether an illness could bankrupt you, or whether you can get health care if you leave your job, or whatever it is. And so many people, their primary motivation in coming to Italy or Europe is that they would love the free health care. Now, let's just get to facts here. It's not free. We pay for it on our tax. Italian tax is extremely high. Most people who earn what I would call a livable wage, a good wage, they're paying close to 40% of that every month in income tax. It's extremely high. And then we have to mention other taxes like refuse tax. We have all sorts of taxes in Italy. It's about half of your salary goes to supporting the Italian system. So healthcare isn't exactly free. We also then pay a little ticket if you're going to have an X-ray or a visit of a specialist in a hospital. You have to get your script from your GP, your family doctor, and then you go there, and before you do the visit with the specialist or the X-ray or whatever the scan you're having done, you pay this ticket amount. It could be anything from, I don't know, 10 euro to 100 euro, depending what it is, okay? So it's not exactly free, but it is state medical care. Okay. France has a similar system. It works pretty much the same. From my experience and from family of mine who've been in France and had treatment in France, France has one of the top healthcare systems in the world. Sometimes Italy and France, it depends on which table you look at. But France certainly has, in terms of Europe, possibly one of the best healthcare systems. There are smaller countries like Sweden or whatever, but if you look at the size of France and the number of inhabitants that this healthcare system has to look after, it's pretty amazing. And Italy, the same. Italy now has 60 million inhabitants who are all using this system. When I first came here, it was 65, close to 65 million Italian inhabitants, Italian citizens. It's now gone down because the Italian birth rate is dropping sharply and has been for some years. So if you were wondering how it went from 65 when I moved here originally to 60 now, that's what happened. The declining birth rate. And this declining birth rate has Italians very worried, obviously. And it's for this reason that the €1 house scheme gets offered, because they would really love to repopulate a lot of villages across Italy, mostly in the south, but also sometimes in Tuscany or wherever, the hilltop villages that haven't been inhabited for many, many years, because there's a declining birth rate and the young people move to the big cities to work. Yes, and so Americans often say, or foreigners who come to Italy say, well, I don't mind being in this little village. I'd love to, be part of restoring the houses. I'd love to be part of the €1 scheme. Basically, you need to invest anything from 60,000 to 100,000 to completely restore this house so it can be lived in. But anyway, the €1 price tag gets everybody talking. But it's not to be looked at lightly, because finding someone to renovate that house for you and making it livable can be really quite difficult. And I like to tell the truth on this channel. I don't like to put out clickbait titles, because there's so many videos on the internet that talk about the €1 housekeeping and how amazing it is. The fact is, you have 3 years to renovate. And if you don't renovate in those 3 years, well, then you have to pay a huge fine. So at the end of the day, you need to look at investing about €1,000 anyway to get this house livable. 100,000, not 1,000, sorry. €100,000. And in my opinion, you could choose a house in the village you want, in the north, the south, the west, the east, wherever you want, and spend €100,000 anyway. So what's the point of going through this whole process and landing up in a village where there might not be services and you might not want to be? In my opinion, it would be easier to look for an affordable house in the area where you really have researched or you've been on holiday, and then take it from there. Okay. So we were comparing to France. So I just spent a week in France and looked at the supermarket. I did a supermarket shop, looked at the supermarkets. I find the French supermarkets amazing. I think they're amazing. The fresh produce from everywhere, from locally and also further afield. There was stuff from South Africa, stuff from Zimbabwe, which I never see in Italy. Here it's either from Peru or sometimes, mostly Peru or South America. And so I was very impressed with eating out. I ate out in Lyon. I found the price of eating out in a boucher restaurant, not anything terribly fancy, but the food was top notch. I found it very affordable, much more affordable than Italy, in my opinion. And for a comparable city to Lyon, I found it more affordable. Italy has become quite expensive. I know there's lots of people who say it's much cheaper than anywhere else because they live in New York or they live in Hollywood or they live in California somewhere, and according to them, Italy's super cheap. Well, it isn't when you live here day to day. The grocery bills go up every month. And so these are the things you have to consider if you're going to live here. So making the comparison, I visited some gorgeous villages in France. I practiced my quite rusty French for a week, and I got to comparing my life here in Italy and how life could possibly be in France. I must admit, I found France very clean. The villages I went to, um, the street furniture is sorted out. There's benches, there's lovely flowers everywhere. Perhaps I was lucky in that I was in the Rhone area, Rhone Alps area, which is southeast of France, kind of near the border with Switzerland and further down the border with Italy. And that area is called Savoy because that's where the Savoy family, the royal family, who were the royal family of Italy before the war, yeah, that was their region and it was named for them. I found it astoundingly beautiful. The lakes, the waterfalls, the gorgeous little villages. I visited a medieval villages, Peruge. You can go and have a look. I put a video out there. It was just amazing with half timbered old buildings, beautifully kept, so in keeping, nothing changed. Obviously, the shops and things can renovate the interior, but the exterior has to be kept in keeping. The churches were magnificent. So the medieval villages that I visited in France were astounding and very beautiful. And I stayed in the little village down the hill from the medieval village of Peruche. It is called Messimo, and it's about, I don't know, 30, 38, 40 kilometers out of Lyon. Beautiful area. I went along the Rhone. Did a very long walk along the Rhone to the beautiful gardens. They have the Tête d'Or gardens. I saw antique roses, beautiful botanical garden. Then I walked back along the Rhone. That evening we went for a boat trip along the Rhone, where the Rhone and the Saône, in French it's Rhône and Saône, but in English we pronounce it Rhone. These two amazing huge rivers that meander down from France. The Saône is incredibly long, and they join just after the city of Lyon, just south of the city. They join, and then it's just the Rhone after that, or the Rhône as the French call it. Just an astounding region, a beautiful region, and really got me thinking that I wouldn't mind being there as a resident. And even though I live in the most beautiful region in Italy, but it got me, doing this comparison, because very often when the people that I help in terms of relocation ask me, so what's the better deal, France or Italy? It's difficult to compare because there may be people who love Italy and the culture of Italy, and there may be people who prefer France. But I must say, I myself got to thinking, well, how do these two compare? I compared a grocery shop. France came up really well. I think France won that one. In terms of eating out and that kind of shopping, again, I think France slightly pipped Italy. I know the cheaper places that you could go and shop in the south of Italy. I'm just comparing my life, which I think is an average person's life, eating out for two, or maybe having a glass of wine with your meal. I found it astounding. I ate in the beautiful, characteristic gastronomic area of Lyon, little street called the Marinaise. It's a cobbled street, and there are lots of just the traditional restaurants. You don't book, you just turn up. It's outside. It's informal, but the food was absolutely drop dead amazing. And I had a whole menu, which was a starter, which is a big starter, the famous salad lyonnaise, which is not salad at all. It's mostly cured meats. And then I had the one night a huge a piece of beef that was cooked to perfection. It was beautifully cooked and melt in the mouth with all the vegetables. And then a dessert. And I had the one night I had the best lemon meringue pie I've ever had in my life. It was truly astounding. I did make a video of it, and I'll put it up as a shorts video at some stage. It was so delicious, and that whole meal came to €20, and then I added a glass of wine, which was €5 for a wonderful Ron, Codiron. Just amazing. And you could not do that in Italy. You could probably go and eat in a place of pasta in a small little trattoria kind of place, maybe not the major cities of Italy, but in the south, and have a glass of wine. Maybe you'd get away with it. But this was, beautiful food, beautifully presented. The service was impeccable, and it was the most gorgeous evening with the midnight blue sky, and safe city, lovely city to eat out with the Rhone River. And I must say, France won on that scale, because, as I say, I wanted to compare both for myself, my usual lifestyle in Italy, and for all the people who asked for my help in terms of choosing between France and Italy. So the supermarkets, France won. I was really stretched, and perhaps had I gone around suburbs of Paris, I've been to Paris many times, by the way. I haven't compared Paris and Milan. I think it's an unfair comparison, because Milan has, less than 2 million people living in it, even though it has a lot going on the fashion industry and all the stuff that happens in Milan. It doesn't quite compare to Paris and the extended suburbs of Paris. So yeah, I am comparing Lyon, which is the south of France, and the city of Lyon and the villages around. But I think you could compare that to Tuscany. I mean, it's also a rural situation and very touristy. So yeah, I honestly think France won this competition, and I was surprised, because people said to me, "Oh, it's going to be, pricey to eat out." The hotel I stayed in was amazing. Actually fell in love with it and would love to go back one Christmas or another time when I visit France. I found the people extraordinarily helpful, polite. I got lost a couple of times. People were so willing to help, even going along and taking me and showing me the way. So I felt very welcomed. Popped into a few shops just to have a look. I wasn't on a big budget, so I wasn't there as a big spender, but I found people really kind, and the general idea that people have of the French, that they don't want to speak English, that they really don't want their language to be massacred by us, and that they're quite unfriendly and brusque. I found the complete opposite. And it wasn't just one occasion, it was across the board, from people working in the hotel, people working in shops, the restaurant staff, the people in the supermarket. I honestly couldn't fault them. I don't think I met one person who wasn't friendly and kind. When I finished my little trip in the village of Perouge, I had to take the train down towards Italy, and so I went on the Geneva train. I wasn't stopping in Geneva, I was going further on in Italy, but I got on with all the other Europeans that are traveling on that Geneva train, which goes into Switzerland, obviously. And it was clean, it was organized. The train staff at the little station, Amburi, where I caught the train down to Chambly, where I would connect to Italy, couldn't have been kinder and nice. He told me to hang on for a second. And he had his cap on, all neat and tidy. The train station had flowers hanging on in baskets all the way along. You could eat off the platform. So I didn't expect it to be that clean, because people often talk about, I guess they're talking about the suburbs of Paris when they talk about the not so nice part of France. Anyway, I was super impressed. And he came out and he printed out my whole itinerary, so kind, to tell me where to connect and what to do. So I jumped on that train going to Geneva. I was just going a couple of stops, and then I got off, and there was a connecting bus because there was a part of the line that obviously had work being done on it. And then I went through Lake Bougie, an incredibly beautiful area with waterfalls and water sports everywhere, and canyons and caves and people kayaking. Just the most beautiful wild area of France, going towards Savoy and going towards Italy. And the cities of Aix, de Bain, and amazing, a little spa town, just wonderful. There's so much to see. I felt like I crammed in as much as I could into that week, but I definitely have to go back because there was lots I didn't see. Lake Bougie, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that accurately, was beautiful. This completely sort of Caribbean blue aqua water with these gorgeous villages around it. And then and on to Chamberlain, where I spent the final night and caught my coach back to Milan. Another interesting city, really old city, where the kings of Savoy, the royal family, the Savoia family, were in power in the beginning 19th and beginning of the 20th century, and the original castles there. There's also this amazing fountain with all the elephants. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I'll be putting up shorter videos of my journeys. We're just talking about comparing Italy and France tonight on this live. If you're just joining us, you can watch it back. If you joined halfway, you can watch it back. It'll be published immediately. And there was this amazing elephant fountain where there were elephants and the water comes out of their trunks. There's 4 of them. Quite impressive. Walked around Chamberlain, found it interesting. There was a medieval festival. And then, yes, and the station was super clean, and my hotel was super affordable, very clean. They had lovely tea available. You could pour yourself a cup of tea anytime you wanted. The rooms were clean. You couldn't ask for more. And went for a very long walk there, my last little walk in France. And again, I found it affordable, had a lovely pain chocolat and lovely buttery croissants, which I don't usually eat in my daily life here in Italy because, yeah, they're not good for the waistline, but it was fabulous. Honestly, there wasn't a meal I had, and I had some exceptional meals in Lyon and also in Messimeux and near Perouge. I couldn't fault any of it. And a good glass of wine, I'm talking about, I mean, you could get a cheaper glass, obviously, and maybe in some little hole in the wall. But generally, it was between 5 and 6 for a wonderful glass of Macon, which is my favorite, in the Burgundy area, which is above Lyon. And yeah, I can't fault it. And I'll certainly go back to cities like Dijon and Bonn and all the lovely cities of Burgundy, and definitely go back to Lyon. So I'm afraid on tonight's thing, even though I expected to find Italy and France kind of on the same affordable scale, I'm afraid France won tonight. And I know there's going to be Italian friends of mine and lots of you say, how dare you? But it just was amazing, and it really made me think. And in terms of the tax benefits from permanent residents in France, it's a little bit more friendly in terms of setting up businesses. But I can't go into all those details here because it probably wouldn't interest those of you who aren't looking at relocating either to France or Italy. But on a comparison, although the retirement visa situation is quite similar between Italy and France. Italy never had a digital nomad visa. It now has just instituted one, and the first ones are rolling out. It also has a long list of requirements. I've done a video on that already. I'll hook it up there. I think it would be hard for me. I guess I speak fluent Italian, so I have that to consider it as a point for Italy. I'm an Italian citizen, so that's a point for Italy in terms of my own life. I found that Italian life has become more and more expensive over the last couple of years. It may not seem expensive to those who are coming from the States or wherever they're coming from, because I know many cities are crucially expensive. Sydney in Australia, also London and much of England. And so it may seem crazy, but the earnings potential in Italy is a lot lower than it is in most countries. The standard of living here has become more and more expensive as time. I've been here 22 years, and incrementally, the first big jump happened in 2008 with the crisis, and it hasn't really stopped since. So I would say, if you're comfortable and you have a good pension guaranteed, then you could probably be very happy in Italy and find your way very well. But if you're English and you're used to popping over the channel to France a lot, and you have sort of schoolboy or schoolgirl French, you might find France more geared. I find from a business point of view, there's a lot more talk of entrepreneurship and business in France than there is in Italy, but that's just the culture. So yeah, as a way up, I think France slightly sort of just pips it in terms of business culture and all of that. Both of them have huge bureaucracy. I have French friends who tell me that the bureaucracy to get everything done, to get registered, whatever, is a nightmare. But having done it in Italy, having done every piece of paper in Italy that is possible to do, I'm pretty sure Italy wins that one. So I think from that point of view, they're kind of on a par. And anyway, so I hope this has been interesting for you tonight. And if you're watching it back or you're joining halfway, then let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. Italy and France and the difference between the two. And I hope this has been informative. Those of you who'd like to see my dual citizenship videos, they're up there. Living in Europe after Brexit, stuff I covered tonight. Well, this is the most recent edition, but I have done a video on living in Europe after Brexit between France, Portugal, Italy, Spain, the countries I know, and how that is, how the healthcare situation is after Brexit. So I hope this has been informative for you and answered some of your questions. If you have particular questions that haven't been answered tonight and you'd really like to ask a question, my email will be in the description box. You can leave me an email. I'm also on Facebook. You can find us on Relocate to Italy. And I'm on Instagram. I'll put my Instagram down there. You can see more of the photos of what I've been up to. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. And the next time it will be a regular Sunday update, because as I mentioned, tomorrow's Sunday, but I will be won't be available to do the live, so hence I'm doing it this evening. And last Sunday I was in France traveling, so I did other updates. I did do a short live, but it was kind of from the hotel room. And anyway, here we are. So see you on the next one. If you haven't subscribed yet, the most useful thing you can do for the channel is to like it. You can go right now and hit the like button. Go on, I dare you, and hit the like button. Leave me a comment, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I regularly talk about living in Italy, what you need in terms of relocation, or we just talk about the lovely culture, lovely food, lovely things we've been doing. So from Amanda here in Italy, I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Have a lovely, lovely Sunday tomorrow, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like the video, and hopefully I can now say goodbye to this huge light. From me here in Italy, see you on the next one. Bye. Bye for now. See you soon. Bye.